All right, Pierre Poilievre has just released another video here talking about the Chrysler Stellantis situation. As you all know, or I'm sure most of you know, the Stellantis plant is moving down to the United States because, elbows up, and Mark Carney was the right guy to get things done, and he's going to protect our jobs and all this crap that some people believed hilariously. But before we get into this, please don't forget to like and subscribe, because it really does help grow the channel. And I appreciate you guys doing that for me so much. So we're going to get into this, and then I have one more other clip to show you as well. It's not as long, it's just like a minute long, but I wanted to show you that as well as this. So let's get into it, and then we'll talk about it.
Here we are at the Chrysler Brampton Assembly Plant, more aptly named Stellantis. The Liberal government handed over 15 billion tax dollars and didn't get job guarantees, and so now the workers here risk losing their jobs after they got a robocall by Stellantis management saying this.
I'm calling today because I want to share some important news that involves our plant. Our CEO, Antonio Pelosa, just announced the largest single investment in our company's 100-year history, $13 billion over the next 4 years to grow our business in the U.S. What does this mean for Brampton Assembly? As part of this announcement, we will be transitioning Jeep Compass production from Brampton to the U.S. We understand this is incredibly difficult news, and we want to acknowledge the impact it has on you, your families, and the entire Brampton team. Our leadership has plans for Brampton and will share them upon further discussions with the Canadian government. Canada remains an important market for Stellantis, and we are committed to working closely with all stakeholders to explore every possible path forward. For now, this means that those on layoff will remain on layoff. We recognize the uncertainty this brings and will be working closely with Unifor to develop a plan that supports you through this transition. We will continue to share updates as soon as more information becomes available. Thank you for your continued patience and resilience.
So there.
That's pretty sick, eh? I mean, they couldn't even have a person call people or have a conference call, a Zoom meeting. You couldn't even do that. Why? Because people were going to be mad and there was going to be pushback and they didn't want to deal with it. Because they don't care about us. Corporations do not care about us at all. They care about money. Since that's the case, and since we need corporations for jobs, it's better to do things that keep companies in Canada rather than push them away. Common sense, right? At least to us it is. But to some people it's not. I mean, this is what elbows up means, I guess. Oh, I'm never going to let that go. By the what a stupid slogan. After complaining about Pierre Poilievre's slogan, then they then come up with the dumbest, shittiest one. Okay, good luck with that.
Here's the news. Money moving to the U.S., $13 billion of investment going south of the border, while Canadians who subsidized this company with our tax dollars through an incompetent Liberal government see their workers losing their jobs. We have to stand up and fight back for the Canadian workers and the Canadian taxpayers. We need a policy that brings home our jobs and our investment, that stands up for Canadian production and Canadian paychecks. And that means taking all tax off Canadian assembled vehicles so that our customers have an incentive to buy our vehicles. It means getting rid of the Liberal industrial carbon tax, which applies on all the component parts of an automobile, like steel, aluminum, and other inputs. It means streamlining the red tape and speeding up approval so we can get more things built. It means cutting the taxes of the workers on this line. And it means nailing down the deal that we were promised that will allow us to have access to overseas and Canadian markets, but also the U.S. market. Those are the steps we're going to have to take to fight for these jobs, to protect our economic future, and to put Canada first.
Absolutely. Isn't that what Mark Carney was supposed to do? But yet we're losing jobs, and things that suck are still getting worse. And now you have Pierre Poilievre on the Doug Ford / Reagan ad. I'm sure you all remember that. Doug Ford released an ad talking about the tariffs and Ronald Reagan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And Pierre's not going to turn on Doug Ford, which is smart. Doug Ford could be useful to Pierre if he decides to actually support Pierre and help push swing voters over the Conservative side federally. A lot of people, believe it or not, who vote for... Ontario's such a weird place. A lot of people who vote for Doug Ford also voted for Trudeau/Carney. But a lot of them are swing voters, and they voted Conservative before, and they could again. So Doug Ford could be a useful idiot to Pierre, so it's smart for him not to go after him too much. But let's have a look at this and see what he has to say about that stupid ad that Doug Ford released.
Do you think it was appropriate for the Prime Minister to apologize to Trump for the Ontario ad? And if not, what would you have done in that scenario?
Well, first of all, I would have provided the strong leadership so that provinces did not have to all run off in their own direction. Now, we don't see a variety of different governors in the U.S. being forced to run ads in Canada or do their own diplomacy. We see that because Mark Carney has been weak, indecisive, he has no plan, and he's broken all of his promises. So the provinces have been left with no choice but to fill the void that Carney's weak leadership has left behind. And then Mr. Carney has been very duplicitous. He approved the ad, and then he condemned the ad.
Yeah. Another liberal flip-flop. Because that's what liberals do. They flip-flop all over the place on every issue. First it's elbows up, then it's like, oh, we got to be diplomatic with Trump. And then you see how Mark Carney acts at the White House. He's very friendly with Donald Trump. And then when he returns home, he throws shade at Donald Trump. And then he returns to the White House and I wore a red tie for you, Mr. President. Oh my God. It's insane. This guy is not who swing voters and liberals think he is. Liberals won't change their mind. You could literally have I don't even have a good example to think. You could have like the worst person in the world run for the Liberal Party of Canada, and they'll spin it and be like, oh yeah, no, I think this guy's pretty good. You're never going to get hardcore liberals unless they have like an epiphany or something, kind of like I did back during COVID. But unless something like that happens, and the brainwashing and the indoctrination stops, or at least they just stop listening to it, you're going to have a large portion of people who are just going to be liberal forever. But with some of the polls that I just showed you on my last video, you're seeing the younger generation starting to turn around back towards the Conservatives. And a lot of people might say, well, hey, look, that's what they did, with Trudeau, because they were told, probably by their liberal parents, that it was Trudeau that was the problem, not the Liberal Party. Well, these 18 to 29-year-olds, as they get older and they get more experience with politics and their life continues to suck, they're going to say, okay, we went back, we gave the Liberals a do-over, which happens. Dalton McGuinty was going to get destroyed in the Ontario Premier leadership a bunch of years ago. So they replace him with this lady named Kathleen Wynne. She wins because the Liberals got a do-over. And then, ever since Kathleen Wynne, we've had Doug Ford, who is a quote-unquote conservative. We know he's not, but you know what I mean. Once the Liberals fail, they get a chance to have a do-over, and then when they fail there as well, then the Conservatives finally get in. Also, people say, well, these polls don't mean anything because the polls were hugely in favor of Pierre Poilievre last time, and he lost. That's because they switched Trudeau out with Carney. A lot of people don't realize that we have a liberal problem, a WEF problem, an elitist problem. They don't associate that with the Liberal Party yet. They thought it was a Trudeau problem. And it's not, and they're going to find out. I think they're already starting to figure that out. That's why you're seeing Pierre Poilievre's support remain very strong, because a lot of people haven't given up on him yet. Because they know he's the guy, and now you see these younger generation. Boomers are still overwhelmingly voting Liberal. Not the boomers who watch this channel, I know that, and I appreciate you guys, but a lot of your colleagues are. And they've, I think, in my opinion, have contributed to fooling these younger generations and into giving Mark Carney a chance. But you don't get multiple do-overs, you get one. And the Liberals just had theirs. And with Pierre Poilievre continuing to hammer at Mark Carney, and Mark Carney continuing to do nothing, it's not going to be much longer before people start to get really upset with these Liberals again. And they won't give them a third chance. With a third a different prime minister. They have no one to replace Carney with anybody. Anyway, that's why Carney was installed. Because they did polls amongst liberals saying, hey, who do you like the best out of, Karina Gould, Chrystia Freeland, Dominic LeBlanc, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And the most popular option was none of the above. So when Carney fails, they got nobody. So we'll see what happens. I think the tide is turning. I think Pierre Poilievre is doing a great job. No one wants an election right now, or at least you shouldn't, because it's too close. But give it 4, 5, maybe 6 more months, and I think we're going to see things change. But for once, it won't be a change for the bad. It'll be a change for the good.